What up, folks? This is Sankara back with the upriver crawfish. Been gone for a minute. This is all to my folks who are free thinkers and anti imperialists. Guess what? Colin Powell died. He died on, I think, October 18, if I'm not mistaken. And there were all those glowing tributes about him in the media. And obviously, they were going to throw in some of the things that's supposed to make black people proud about this black brother, like the first African American NSA chief, the first chairman of Joint Chief of Staff, the first chairman, Secretary of State. Those are all things that the mainstream media put out there. And I mean, there were glowing terms about this guy. I think someone even went, I think it was on NPR or somewhere I heard that someone called him intellectually honest. Now, that one really floored me. Intellectually honest. I didn't spend my school fees on Kala. I didn't spend my school fees on Gargoyle. These are African foods for those who are not African. But I know intellectual honesty will not have the face of Colin Powell, this liar, proven liar. Now, for me, as a human being, I don't think it is a good thing for humans to celebrate the death of other humans. I don't care how diabolical they are. Because it is always a human tragedy when another human dies, especially through sickness or violence or whatever. Outside of, a peaceful death, I think it's always a tragedy that a human dies. So if that person is deserving of that death, I think the most that any human should feel is relief. However, in this case with Colin Powell, we can't even feel relief. Because if the world was working right and things were not topsy-turvy, this dude will be languishing in prison for the war crimes. He will be there with his buddy W and a lot of the other U.S. war criminals. Obama, all of them. He would have been there with them, languishing. And we would have heard the news that Colin Powell passed today in the prison. That's what we would have seen. Oh, that's what we would have heard, rather. But no, Colin Powell was given some glowing praises by the mainstream media. Let me go through a few alternate views, a few alternate headlines that takes away that sheen from this guy. You see, sometimes we think that monsters wear the face of Gargoyle. But no. Some monsters, they wear the face of Colin Powell. They have glasses, speak good English, and and they probably drink wine. They drink wine in that kind of bourgeois way where you have the pinky finger out, just sipping on a little wine. That's probably how Colin Powell drank wine. But no, he's a monster. Probably Gargoyle's face doesn't even capture how diabolical this monster was. Here's an article from Belin Fernandez, a contributing editor at Jacobin. It was on Al Jazeera. She said it straight up. Stop being polite. Colin Powell was a killer. Yes, he was. This guy was a member of the imperialist club, go around killing people, leading imperialist wars. Right? One of my favorite is from Margaret Kimberly, from the Black Agenda Report. And this is on the website popularresistance.org. And she puts it in a context for us black folks. She said, Colin Powell's death is an opportunity to question the inclination to respect the black face in a high place. And that cannot be more closer to my sentiment about it. This guy was an imperialist agent. He went about killing brown and black people for imperialism. What is there to be proud about? You know, in sociology, there's a word called hidden curriculum, right, in the society. So hidden curriculum is a set of lessons, right, learned but not particularly taught. So it's something expected in a society. Sometimes you get it in out of the schooling system. Sometimes it's in the social system and through different cultural messages and stuff. But implicit teachings in a society of how things should be. And one of the hidden curriculums in learn to understand in America as a black man is that those black Americans, or for that matter any other minority that you see are first to some high position in society, are often there because they are agents of the imperialist power or of white supremacy. They're there to serve the system. That system that oppresses, that's the system they are there to serve. And they are not there because they were the best. They are there because they are the yes men. They're not there because they are the best. Colin Powell was known as the political general. Yeah, he was no Hal Moore. He was no Vasily Chukov. He was not Aaron Rommel. He was no MacArthur or General O.P. Smith from the U.S. Marine Corps. This guy was a political general. That's what he was. He would say yes to do whatever he needed to do to get by so that he can serve himself. He served himself. He did not serve black society. So we should not be proud about his achievements. In society, oftentimes there are a lot of competent black folks and minorities who are stepped on so that idiots like these, monsters like these, can get to show their faces up high. Right? So Kimberly pointed out something about Colin Powell's actions during My Lai back in the day. So let me just read that for you so I can point out make a point. When Major Colin Powell was stationed in Vietnam in 1968, he and his superiors received a letter written by a soldier whose tour of duty was ending. Tom Glenn stated that U.S. soldiers were carrying out atrocities against civilians. Major Powell was tasked with investigating. We should have included an interview of the soldier himself. Neither he nor anyone else spoke to Glenn, and when Powell responded, he blamed the whistleblower for not reporting the crimes to people who had chosen to do nothing about them. He then wrote a classic yes man response which concluded, in direct refutation of this portrayal, he's refuting what Tom Glenn has said to him. In direct refutation of this portrayal is the fact that relations between American soldiers and the Vietnamese are excellent. I mean, just think about that. Right? This guy just didn't care, knowing what was happening in Vietnam and being presented with such atrocities. That was what he came out with to refute Tom Glenn. This is to tell you the type of mindset of someone like that. He served power, he doesn't care. It's of no consequence to him. It is not his own life. You know, moral courage is more valuable than combat courage. Now, I don't know how much he served in combat. Yeah, he got a purple hat. Maybe did some, maybe mistakenly fell down when he was walking and maybe hit his knee or something. Whatever the case, moral courage is something more valuable than combat courage. This guy had none of that. None of it whatsoever. All right? There's a Times of India piece in which there's a guy called Aninda Day. And he says Colin Powell was a war criminal, most dangerous weapon of mass distraction. I encourage people to read those. And he lists the dishonors. Colin Powell, one of his dishonor was Iraq War. We all know that was the one that kind of exposed him to some extent. Then Iran-Contra affair, and then obviously the Vietnam War and Panama as well. And he goes on to list all the lies because this dude was a big liar. Let's not forget, they always present Colin Powell's actions in the UN Security Council speech as being based off of faulty intelligence. No, it was not faulty intelligence. This guy, he himself, actively participated in making false evidence. That's the type of human being that you see. And you know, NPR represented the blemish of Iraq on his record as if, and Colin Powell himself probably presented it this way, as him being anguished. Well, I agree, he probably was anguished, but he was not anguished because of the lives of Iraqis. About 1 million or so Iraqis whose lives were taken because of his actions. Or the thousands of U.S. troops who lost their lives and continue to die today from suicide and stuff because of what happened in Iraq. Let's not talk about the ones living with wounds, with debilitating wounds. Yeah, he was not anguished of that. He was anguished because for the very first time, his lies were not seen, were not given cover, were not given the shame of the media. It was exposed as a bad thing. So his anguish was for himself, not for the souls he put in the grave. You know, Paul died probably with his family around him. That is the tragedy. There are many Iraqis, kids, who got bombs on their head, who were torn to pieces by machine gun fire. But that freak, he got to live a full life and die a peaceful death. How fair is it? Right? So, when we think about monsters, and we think they do not all look like Gargoyle. Some monsters have the face of Colin Powell. That's what a monster looks like. It would be appropriate if we could deface those monsters, like this website by William Miller, WilliamMillerPhoto.com, where he talk about American war criminals. And it goes with George W. Bush, who all of a sudden the liberals praising now because he was anti-Trump. John Ashcroft, Henry Kissinger, Dick Cheney, Richard Nixon, and this year is Colin Powell. That's what he should look like. There's about Alberto Gonzalez, probably another first. There's another first, Condoleezza Rice, one who looked at the suffering, killing of people in the Middle East and said and compared to the birth pangs of a pregnant woman. No wonder she doesn't have kids. So that's why she can compare something as beautiful as that to the tragedy that was going on in the Middle East. George Tenet is the other one here. So Colin Powell was a monster. We shouldn't show reverence to him. We shouldn't show reverence to him at all. There was a saying by Napoleon Bonaparte, and I probably might butcher it, but basically he says that when a man's character and his reputation meets, they don't recognize one another. The point being is that quite often the character of a man does not match the reputation he has, for good or bad. So you look at Colin Powell, the reputation he had was good, but he lacked character, moral character. He was as diabolical as they come. Just did it with a sort of panache, I would say. You know, that nice wine sipping, pinky finger out type of way. What a monster. I'm just sorry that he died peacefully instead of in a prison cell.